Previous drug experience: 2 to 3 second plateau DXM experiences. Much experience with THC, 3 to 5 low-dose acid trips, 10 to 15 mid-dose acid trips, 3 to 4 high-dose acid trips, drunk 10 to 15 times. Setting: my bedroom, alone. 3 p.m. Fall break. Mindset: fairly clear and unburdened, except for the normal reservations I have about surrendering some control over my mind, or the possibility thereof. Dose: 14-25 mg tablets for a total of 350 mg. Experience: I had never done Dramamine before, and I was curious to try it. I didn't think anyone was going to be home, at least for a while, and though I knew a tripsitter was advised, I have had many good experiences with LSD by myself, partly because I didn't feel a constant urge to describe what I was experiencing. I took the pills and tried to just relax, and allow the drug to run its course, give it time. After a while, I was staring at a table about 12 feet away, and became aware that there was gas rising from it. This struck me as odd, so I rose and went over to it. When I was about 5 feet from it, the gas just vanished. I shrugged and sat back down, only to see the gas reappear. It then hit me that this was a drug-induced hallucination. It was not what I would describe as an LSD-like hallucination or pseudo-hallucination, because in my experiences with acid, if I relaxed my eyes and just stared into the distance, I would hallucinate more, whereas this time, the gas or steam was just there, rising into the air, and I could look at it from any angle and blink and it would still be there. I found this very funny. Then things turned sour. My mouth felt too tight, my tongue was thrashing around not knowing what to do. I decided to take a shower. When I got into the bathroom, the walls were shimmering and white, with wild geometric patterns flying across them. It wasn't like acid-type patterns in grass, sand or carpets. I saw an apparent glossy, 80% translucent film with bubbles in it that moved like skin over the wall. I was also having an odd kind of visual misinformation, a kind of jumping sensation. If I looked at point A, I would see something seem to jump in at point B, like it had teleported in. This continued for the next 2 to 3 hours. Looking at a tree, branches in my peripheral vision would just jump in. I don't know if they had been there all along and were not being reported, or if they weren't there at all. Anyway, I got in the shower and felt even more uncomfortable. By this time I was feeling very unpleasant physically, and that made the mental changes hard to enjoy. My skin was crawling, and I think I was shaking. I felt very sick. I went back to my room, dried off and tried to sleep. My body felt heavy and tired, but in a drunk way, and I couldn't sleep. That is where I should have just held on 40 minutes, but I panicked and called poison control. They advised me to go to the hospital. At this point someone had come home, and I told them what was up and they said they'd take me to By the time I was actually in the car, most of the physical discomfort was gone and I was wishing that I could call it off, but it was a little late for that. A tripsitter could have calmed me that crucial 20 to 30 minutes. The ride there was actually fairly interesting. There were, it seemed, far too many trees along the road, and I still don't know if some of them were phantasmal. I kept seeing identical dead black and white cats at even intervals along the road. I wonder if any of them were real. When I got to I could hardly walk, my body felt very drunk. Everything seemed dreamy and unreal. Not anything specifically, more like I was in a lucid dream instead of on a drug. This was an interesting sensation since higher mental functioning was not actually that impaired. I think I could have multiplied 2- and 3-digit numbers in my head and Kami told you how to spell long words, something I would find impossible on LSD. I sheepishly told them what I had done, and they hooked me up to a cardiograph and monitored me for 2 hours until I fell asleep. I woke up 2 hours later, was shortly thereafter discharged and went home. I felt somewhat disassociated for 3 to 4 days. All in all, it would have been a much better experience if I had forced myself to suffer through those 30 hellish minutes. But even if the trip to the had not happened, I would have to say the physical discomfort at the trip's outset that led to my panic attack and the long hangover would outweigh the interesting aspects of the trip. This did not seem to me to be a drug that broke down mental workings and reassembled them, or led to a great internal insight. It was just kind of like a waking dream, with a very uncomfortable physical component. I would advise against doing this drug, but if you are, do it gradually, take 2 tablets on day A, then maybe skip day B, then try 3, etc. And have a tripsitter once you get to a point where you're going to notice it. As a side note, I took 2 to 3 50 mg tabs, 2 was the actual dose the package said to take sometime later for allergies, and had the same, jumping, visuals, albeit at a much smaller level, as before. I don't know if I would have anyway, or if the high dose taken before better acclimated my brain to respond to Dramamine.